stability and trust that we put into those individuals to lead troops into combat. That's just one example across the board. So you receive training, and you will receive an understanding of the rules and requirements that come along with those responsibilities. And you're expected to abide by those rules, regulations, and responsibility. It's called military discipline. And in certain cases, especially when it comes to sensitive information, it also is about the law. So I'll just leave it at that. Qasim.
Thank you very much. So, separate topic. Last week, CENTCOM confirmed that 3 U.S. service members were with YPG SDF ringleader Mazlum Abdi when he was apparently targeted in an airstrike in northern Iraq, Suleimania. My question is, what was the mission or engagements that the U.S. service members involved alongside Mazlum Abdi in Suleimania? And also, were these engagements authorized or permitted by the Iraqi central government or not?
Yeah, so let me tell you what I've got on this, Qasim. So on April 7, convoy, including U.S. personnel, was fired upon while in transit within the Iraqi Kurdistan region in the area near Suleimania. U.S. forces are in Iraq and Syria, as you know, in support of local partner forces, in support of the Defeat ISIS mission, the enduring defeat of ISIS. And so in this particular incident, we can confirm that there were no casualties, that the strike was not a near miss. It struck more than 100 meters from the convoy, and CENTCOM is currently investigating the incident. So I'd refer you to CENTCOM.
What was the mission of the U.S. service members, and was it somehow allowed?
They are conducting in support of the Defeat ISIS mission.
By the Iraqi government, was it authorized by Iraqi government? Because Mazlum.
Well, we're supporting the Iraqi security forces as part of the Defeat ISIS mission. As you know, we have forces in Iraq. They're not conducting combat operations. They're there advising and assisting the Iraqis. And then we have forces in Syria that are supporting the SDF. So again, there's an intra-theater mission in terms of the Defeat ISIS mission.
Border, like Mazlum Abdi is in Syria. You are cooperating with him.
Well, the OI and I need to move on, but the OIR headquarters is in Iraq, right? But they conduct operations in support of Defeat ISIS mission in Syria and Iraq. So let me go ahead. Yes, sir.
If I may, I'd like to remain on the same subject. Actually, I got one question about this. I posed the same question to the State Department on Monday, and I was referred to the Department of Defense, so that's why. The question is, when the U.S. servicemen, U.S. military members are riding with the head of the SDF, isn't there a concern within the Department of Defense that those U.S. servicemen are also made a legitimate target, not least one of your greatest NATO allies, because of his decades-long relationship with the PKK that I'm sure is very much known to the U.S. intelligence community? So
no. SDF, we've partnered with the SDF since 2015, 2014 as part of the Defeat ISIS mission. We have a long-standing relationship with them. They're not the PKK. We are partnered with SDF to defeat ISIS. So no, we've been conducting partnered operations for a very long time. So let me go ahead and move on. Yep, sir. Yeah, we'll go to you and then to Megan.
Thanks, Pat. Just two quick follow-ups to questions. One was from Ro in regards to the Chinese activities around Taiwan. Before they did the military exercises, they were conducting an exercise to which the Pentagon described as, well, they were in international waters. It's simply what we do in international waters. At what point does it move from being in international waters to an overreaction? That's my first question, please. And my second one is regards to what you said earlier in this briefing. Even though the investigation's going on and such, but you're confident that, you said several times that this is a violation of the law, and as we all sign non-disclosure agreements, not me, but we at the Pentagon. So you're confident that those two factors will remain when the investigation concludes? Thanks.
Yeah, so on your latter questions, again, I'm not going to discuss the ongoing investigation. By virtue of the fact that photographed documents of sensitive information are posted by default is a violation of how to properly handle and safeguard sensitive information. So it is a criminal act. And then in terms of your first question, I would just have to take a little bit of an exception of conducting simulated strikes against Taiwan is not just that's not just operating peacefully in international waters. And so again, yes, we would call that an overreaction. Yep. Okay. Let me go back to. Let me get a few more here. Let me go back to Kelly and then over here to Joe.
Thank you. You mentioned taking steps to review the distribution lists and ensure that folks receiving information have a need to know, but this isn't the first time you've had that kind of crackdown on this to limit who's on these distribution lists. So my question is, how did this happen? How wasn't this solved before, and how did potentially a 21-year-old have a need to know?
Again, we need to allow the investigation time to run its course. And so, again, I'd defer you to the Department of Justice when it comes to suspects, on that. And again, look, this is something that will continue to be important work to ensure that there's an understanding of the rules and regulations. Again, we have strict safeguards in place, and people are expected to abide by those. I'll just leave it at that. You go over here.
Thanks, General. Quick one on the Syria strike. So just to clarify, there has been no attribution to who was behind that attack with the 3 guns?
Again, my understanding is it's continued. CENTCOM is investigating, so I'd refer you to them.
And, secondly, yesterday, Reuters cited several sources, including intel officials, as saying that they've seen Iranian weapons being moved into Syria following certain sanctions waivers, following the earthquake. Has DoD seen any increase or uptick in Iranian weapons heading for Syria?
Yeah, thanks. I don't have anything to provide from here other than, again, we, as evidenced by the IRGC aligned groups in Syria, we know that Iran conducts malign activities within Syria. So I got time for 2 more. Megan, and then go to the back there. And then we'll end on Tar.
Several media reports have said that the airman in question was working at Fort Bragg at the time that the documents were put online. Was he on Title X orders at the time, or has he been on Title X orders since?
Yeah, thanks, Megan. Again, I don't have anything to provide on that front. I have to refer you to DOJ, and when we have more to provide, we certainly will.
Follow up. Has the leak prompted any discussion at OSD about either tightening policies or bulking up training for OPSEC or social media?
Again, our review is ongoing. I've mentioned some of the steps that we've taken, and we're going to do everything that we need to do due diligence to ensure that we are properly safeguarding classified information. Again, I can't emphasize enough that this is something that Secretary Austin and the entire department are taking very, very seriously. We understand the impact that an unauthorized disclosure like this can have on national security. And so, again, it's something that we'll continue to work very hard on. Thank you. We'll go here and then over to Tar.
Thank you, General. This morning, the Prime Minister of Poland gave remarks that were very supportive of Ukraine's stated ambition to join both the EU and NATO alliance. From a strictly military perspective, would you see any benefit to Ukraine joining these 2 organizations, and especially for the wider defensive posture there in the area?
Yeah,
in the
thanks.
Baltic states?
So that's not really something for me to comment on. Obviously, I'd refer you to Ukraine to talk about its perspectives on joining NATO and the EU. Just leave it at that. Tar?
The Associated Press has confirmed that federal agents have taken a Massachusetts Air National Guardsman into custody. At this point, could you speak a little bit more about this case?
I cannot. I'd, again, refer you to DOJ. It's an ongoing DOJ investigation and activity, so I'd refer you to them. And again, I will say when we do have more to provide, we certainly will. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it.